The sleek conference hall of Sterling Aerospace hummed with anticipation. 200 of Detroit's finest engineers, executives, and invited press members filled the auditorium, their eyes fixed on the spectacle unfolding on stage. At the center stood Eleanor Mitchell, 35 years old, dressed in a simple white button-down shirt and faded jeans, looking utterly out of place among the suits and lab coat. Inside her loomed the R-7000 aircraft engine, a $2 million marvel of engineering that had stumped Sterling's MIT-deviated team for 3 days straight. Richard Sterling, the company's CEO, gripped the microphone with theatrical flair, his voice dripping with disdain. "This woman thinks she can join our elite engineering team. No degree, no credentials, just delusion." He tossed a wrench at Eleanor's feet, the metal clanging against the polished floor. "You have 30 minutes to fix what my best engineers couldn't. Fail and you leave forever." The crowd erupted in mocking laughter. Eleanor bent down, picked up the wrench with trembling hands, a flash of old pain crossing her brown eyes. But they didn't know who she really was. What would you do in Eleanor's position? Stand your ground or walk away? Sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing when to reveal your true self. Share your thoughts below and let's see if dignity can truly triumph over arrogance. Eleanor Mitchell lived modestly on Detroit's East Side, working at the public library, helping children with homework. Her neighbors saw her as quiet, broken, carrying invisible weight. What they didn't know was her recent application to Sterling Aerospace, not as chief engineer, but basic technician, entry level. During interviews, she'd been deliberately vague about qualifications. But her practical test revealed extraordinary skill, diagnosing engine problems by sound alone, completing assessments in half the time, identifying issues senior technicians missed. Word spread quickly about the mysterious woman with no credentials but extraordinary abilities. Richard Sterling's reaction was immediate and visceral. No untrained woman could outperform his MIT engineers. This special interview wasn't to evaluate Eleanor's abilities, but to humiliate her publicly. Eleanor knew this, yet came anyway, carrying secrets that would shatter every assumption. 5 years ago in Houston, Dr. Eleanor Mitchell, just 30, had been honored as NASA's youngest chief engineer in Orion spacecraft program history. Her revolutionary propulsion system reduced fuel consumption by 40% while increasing efficiency by 60%. She and her fiancé Daniel Walsh had developed the technology together, planning to file joint patents and marry. But that night, everything shattered. Eleanor found Daniel copying classified research onto external drives. Lockheed Martin offered $50 million for this technology. "For me alone," he'd said coldly. When she tried to stop him, he triggered false security alerts, claiming she was stealing materials. He sabotaged the lab's safety systems, causing an explosion that left Eleanor with severe nerve damage in her right hand. The investigation lasted 6 months, but Daniel had been thorough, falsified emails, doctored footage, purchased testimonies. Eleanor was branded a traitor, quietly dismissed. The deepest wound wasn't professional destruction, it was discovering Daniel had been recruited by Lockheed from the beginning, tasked with getting close to NASA's most promising engineer. Her life's work now bore his name. Eleanor packed away her MIT doctorate, NASA commendations, and engagement ring, choosing to disappear rather than fight in courts that had already condemned her. Now, 5 years later, facing Daniel's stolen design, past and present collided with devastating force. The Sterling auditorium grew restless. Richard strutted across the stage, savoring what he assumed would be Eleanor's destruction. "Today we witness why Sterling Aerospace only hires the best, the credentialed, the proven," he announced. The audience tittered with cruel amusement. "The R-7000 has a fatal flaw," Richard continued. "My best engineers spent 3 days searching for it. Miss Mitchell has 30 minutes. As Eleanor's fingers touched the metal surface, memory crashed over her. This wasn't just similar to her Orion design, it was her design, modified and corrupted. The resonance frequency was wrong, compression ratio miscalibrated. At high altitude, this engine would experience catastrophic failure. 20 minutes elapsed. Eleanor's hands mapped every component, her damaged right hand cramping painfully. The crowd's mockery reached fever pitch. 10 minutes left, Richard announced gleefully. Eleanor set down her tools and stepped back. The hall fell silent, anticipating defeat. She reached into her pocket, finding the small NASA pin she always carried, ad astra per aspera, to the stars through difficulties. In that moment, she remembered the 8-year-old girl who'd watched shuttle launches, promising herself she'd build engines to carry humanity to Mars. Her father's words echoed, "Eleanor, you were born to soar. Don't let anyone clip your wings." 5 minutes, Richard boomed. Eleanor turned back, something in her expression making the front row step back instinctively. When she spoke, her voice carried authority that silenced even Richard Sterling. "I need a digital micromotor and precision pressure calibration kit. Unless you want this engine to explode at 40,000 feet. The transformation was so sudden that several people gasped audibly. Eleanor had already turned back to the engine, her movements swift and decisive. With practiced efficiency, she disassembled the pressure regulation system in 30 seconds, something Sterling's entire MIT team hadn't managed in 3 days. "Look here," she pointed to a microscopic flaw. "The resonance frequency is distinct from the compression ratio. At cruising altitude, pressure differential will create harmonic vibration. Complete structural failure within minutes." Sarah Chen pushed forward, face draining of color. "That's impossible. How could you know?" "Because this is a modified Orion design," Eleanor cut her off. "Someone copied it without understanding fundamental principles." She recited specifications with machine-like precision, fuel injection timing 23.7 microseconds. Turbine speed 97,300 rpm. Bypass ratio 5.1 to 1. The audience watched in stunned silence as Eleanor recalibrated the entire system with fluid, choreographed movements. "Done," she announced. The engine roared to life with perfectly calibrated sound. Every diagnostic parameter glowed green. "Who are you?" James Morrison's voice cracked with disbelief. Eleanor wiped her hands, then faced the crowd. The tremor in her damaged hand was gone, replaced by steady confidence. "I'm the person who warned NASA about this exact failure mode 5 years ago when I designed the original Orion engine." "Impossible," Sarah Chen protested. "The Orion engine was designed by Dr. Eleanor Mitchell, and she's dead, disappeared, disgraced." Eleanor's laugh held no humor, only deep sadness. "I'm standing right here. You just couldn't see me past your assumptions." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing extensive scarring covering her right arm, the explosion's damage written in raised white lines. An elderly journalist rose shakily. "Dr. Mitchell, Eleanor Mitchell, the prodigy who was going to take us to Mars." Eleanor nodded once. The room erupted in chaos. Cameras flashed, phones rang with urgent calls to editors. Richard Sterling gripped the podium as his universe crumbled. "Daniel Walsh," Eleanor repeated the name like pronouncing a curse. "The man who sold my design to Lockheed Martin for $50 million. And apparently Lockheed sold it to you, Mr. Sterling." She displayed the original Orion blueprints on screen, complete with her embedded signatures. "This is proof your R7000 is an illegal copy of my work." Richard Sterling collapsed as Eleanor held up her phone. "This is a cease and desist from my attorneys." Sterling Aerospace faces a $500 million patent infringement lawsuit. But Eleanor's next words shocked the room even more. "However, I'm not filing it." The stunned silence was absolute. "I didn't come for revenge or money. I came because I recognized my own design being corrupted into something that could kill innocent people." She looked directly into the nearest camera. 5 years ago, I let love and trust blind me to betrayal. Today, I choose not to let the past define my future." Eleanor faced Richard Sterling. "The engine is repaired. My consulting fee will be $1, the price of a cup of coffee." Because engineering excellence shouldn't be measured by ego or gender, but by its ability to save lives. She addressed the entire room. You want to know who I really am? I'm someone who believes talent doesn't live in diplomas or circumstances of birth. It lives in passion, dedication, and courage to keep going when the world tells you you're not enough. Sarah Chen broke the spell, voice thick with tears. Wait, please. I'm so sorry. Eleanor paused. Sorry doesn't change what happened, Sarah, but it might change what happens next. James Morrison stepped forward. Dr. Mitchell, please stay. We could offer you any position, any salary. What you need, Eleanor interrupted gently, is to change your culture, not hire me to absolve your guilt. Look around, how many women are on your engineering team? How many people have you rejected because they didn't graduate from the right schools? Richard Sterling found his voice. I'll make this right. Restore your reputation. You can do something else, Eleanor replied. Open doors for the next Eleanor, sitting in a garage right now, dreaming of building something extraordinary but being told she's not enough. A young reporter asked, where will you go now? Back to the library, Eleanor said simply. Where I help children from poor neighborhoods learn about science, where an 8-year-old girl can dream about Mars without being told she's the wrong gender or class. At the door, Eleanor turned one final time. Someone once called me decorative window dressing. But every flower has thorns, and sometimes those thorns are necessary to protect the beauty within. She left, walking into the Detroit afternoon, leaving behind a room full of people struggling to reconcile assumptions with reality. Sarah Chen sank into a chair, tears flowing. James Morrison removed his MIT diploma from the wall. Richard Sterling stood alone beside the $2 million engine saved by a woman he'd deemed unworthy. Outside, Eleanor Mitchell disappeared into the Detroit crowd, not running from anything this time. She had found herself again, not in accolades or recognition, but in simply doing what was right. Monday would find her back at the library, helping young minds discover science's wonders, planting seeds of dreams in hearts society might otherwise overlook. Some battles are won not with power, but with dignity intact. Eleanor had chosen not to destroy those who tried to humiliate her, but to demonstrate something far more powerful, the strength to rise above, fix what was broken, and walk away with grace.